to the PowerPoint Techniques for Public Sector Professionals webinar. This will be one of our first GOV webinar series that we're starting. I am Kat Irizarry. I'm the marketing coordinator at Sourcepass, and I specialize in events, coordination, and branding. I've had 5+ years experience in IT services and marketing. Dave, my manager, usually does these intros, but he is away at client visits. So I will be introducing our lovely Jolynn, who does our virtual training. She's been on many different webinars with us. I'm just going to go through some intro slides and then Jolynn will take it over. So for the webinar series, we use this to help Sourcepass Gov community best utilize the tools you may already have while being prepared for the future. We're going to have these webinars for anyone, any clients or invited guests can join. For the Gov ones, they will be on a bi-monthly cadence, third Wednesday of the month, every other month. So please stay tuned for that. You can check out these webinars on sourcepassgov.com/events-webinars. Go to the next slide. Just some housekeeping. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A button on the top. We'll get to all your questions at the end. Me and Jolynn will make sure we answer everyone. But also please take the time to take the survey. It will be sent out via email after the webinar, and also I'll throw it in the chat at the end of the presentation. And lastly, if you want any more information on PowerPoint techniques after, please reach out to your client success manager or email us at events@sourcepass.com. All right, I'll introduce Jolynn. She will be taking over the rest of the portion and helping you learn more about PowerPoint techniques.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Kat. Welcome everyone to our session today on building and presenting in Microsoft PowerPoint. I use PowerPoint on a daily basis, but if I'm going to be presenting financial information, we need to do safety information, whatever your case might be, PowerPoint is a great tool for you to use. Now, there is a way that I want to get started here with kind of talking about using PowerPoint. I don't want to just dive into the application right away. I really want to spend a couple of minutes just talking about different options that we have available that really kind of can get you kick-started with utilizing PowerPoint. So one of the things that I wanted to mention was that when it comes to building the PowerPoint slides, we'll talk about different options that you have for slide layouts and different things like that. But I want you to understand a little bit about the backbone of when you design a presentation. There are some built-in design helper tools that we'll mention here today. There's a lot of different elements that we can be adding into our presentation, but there are some basic practice, or I should say best practice guidelines that I want to mention here before we get started. When it comes to the design of the slide itself, have one topic, so to say, per slide. Don't try and put too much into one slide. If you have two different things that you want to talk about, put them in two separate slides. Use the white space to really kind of fill in information on your slides and don't leave too much empty space. Right now on the slide that you're seeing on mine, I'm using a design. I didn't design this myself. I'm using one of the built-in designs, and this is very easy to read, very easy to understand. It's very simple, but yet I'm utilizing the different white space areas. We want to make the font sizes bigger instead of smaller, but not too ginormous. We have to be very careful with too much formatting when it comes to the visualization of your presentation, because what's going to happen is when you actually put the information on your slide, let PowerPoint do some of that work for you instead of you manually doing it, because we have over 16 million different colors we can use, but that doesn't mean we should use all 16 million. When we talk about templates and themes, let the template determine what formatting should be used on your different slides. We don't want to go real crazy on one slide and then very simple on another. We want it to kind of be uniformed and a relaxed environment. We don't want it to be too much at once. We want to take advantage of the built-in themes, or if your organization has a company theme that they want you to use it. Let the theme and the template do the work for you. Sometimes we work way too hard on doing something that the computer can actually do for us. So be careful on fonts. I was talking about, the formatting side of things. Sans serif fonts are good for clarity and stuff. Of course, Microsoft does have a new default. It's Aptos. That, of course, is a good font to use. You just don't want to be using things like a very fancy script font unless you're trying to be fancy. It needs to be legible. Like if you drive past a billboard on the highway, what did you see on that billboard? What caught your attention first? What did you read? How did it look on that billboard? I do my PowerPoints really very similar to that. I don't try and cram too much information, too much text on a slide. So just some general practices to be thinking about. Take advantage of some of these tools that we're going to be mentioning here today. Use things like smart art. Use things like charts. People like those. They're easier to understand, especially a chart. If you give a great big spreadsheet on your PowerPoint, because you're talking about financial information, if you have all of those numbers and all of that data, you're going to lose your audience. They're not really understanding what it is that you're showing them. Instead, use a chart. If it's a more simple set of data, you could still have a chart and show the data because, of course, charts do have those abilities of having what are called data tables to show the raw data, plus get your chart. So take advantage of what is already there and be careful, but use animation and transitions. Now we're going to do some demonstrations on those. Keep it subtle though. We have a lot of different choices. We can make PowerPoint look like a movie, and depending on what I'm doing with my presentation, I may want that as an option. So if I'm going to be at a trade show and I'm going to have a booth set up with our products and services, and I'm going to have a TV screen in the back, and I want my PowerPoint running and I want it to look like a movie, you definitely could. But if you're standing up and doing a presentation, whether it's 5,000 people, it's 50 people, or it's 5 people, you want to be careful on some of the things that you do and really think about who is your audience and what type of presentation you are creating, which of course we will cover that today. And we will talk about what is the difference between animation and transitions, because there is a difference. But I want to really start in a blank presentation right now. So you can see right now I'm just in a blank presentation. What you're going to find is that you can start a presentation a lot of different ways. If you go to the File menu, this is one option. You could always go to the File menu, and then from there, you could use any of the built-in templates. So if you go to the New category on the left-hand side, you can search for a template based on the subject that you're doing. You could go through the existing templates and the design options that we have, like this cute little bohemian one. We have this light sales pitch presentation. You could start with all of this, any of these, I should say, not all of this, but any of these, so that you're not starting from scratch. It's going to give you the foundation of the presentation, whether it's going to be the theme that it's using, the graphical objects, etc. Some of the templates, by the way, are also going to give you slides that are already filled out that you just go in and replace it with your data. But I got to tell you, I do that less and less these days because we have Copilot. So I'm going to actually go back to this blank presentation. And if I want to create a presentation, I usually start with Copilot. Now, You do have to have a license to be able to do this, but if you have Copilot, if you do have a license for it, I can go to the Copilot icon right at the top left of my slide, and I can say create a new presentation based on a file. So I could have an Excel spreadsheet, I could have a Word document, a PDF, doesn't matter what it is, and I could say create a presentation based on this information. So what I'm going to do is do create a new presentation, but what I'm going to do is either type or copy and paste, depending on, of course, where your information is coming from, your idea of the presentation, and I'm going to describe the presentation I would like it to create. So I'm filling in a prompt to Copilot that basically is saying, create a 10-slide presentation outlining our agency's disaster recovery plan. Include an introduction, objectives, risk assessment, recovery strategies, roles and responsibilities, communication plan, and a summary slide. Use a professional government style with clear headings, visuals, I can't talk today, like flow charts and timelines. So I'm giving it the details as to what exactly do I want it to create. Now, I am telling it to only do 10 slides, but just so you know, if you don't, it will create as many slides as it finds based on the description that you gave it. You can always change it though. So it's automatically generating the slides. It's doing an objective, agency risk assessment, recovery strategies, etc. So right now it says it estimated a number of slides to be 36. Now I did say to only do 10. The nice thing about this is I can go through what it's giving me and I could delete it by going to the right hand side of this window, or I could do the plus sign as I'm hesitating to add in. Now I'm just going to leave it the way that it is right now, and at the bottom right I'm going to click generate slides. The nice thing about starting a presentation like this or using a template is that it's going to automatically generate the slides for you. And what this does through Copilot is it automatically will create graphical objects for each slide to go along with the subject that is on the slide. It will even start with some speaker notes to get you started as well. Now, of course, you're going to need to go back and make some tweaks to each of the slides and do some other things. But that's what we're going to talk about doing today, is what are some of these other things that may be beneficial that you want to be incorporating in your slides. Now, I didn't change the theme before I generated the slides. I left the default. But of course, if I had a theme I wanted this to follow, what a theme does is it provides the colors that it's going to use and the fonts that it's going to use. So a theme can help totally change what your slides are going to look like. So let me show you where that is located at. It's located on the ribbon on the Design tab. So you could see right now that this very first one, which is called Oasis VTI, is being used on all slides. If I want to use the default Microsoft theme, I could choose Office theme. If I want to use any of these other themes, I could choose those as well. Of course, if I had a company theme, I would apply that. But I'm just going to leave it with the one that it used to get me started. But just so you could see, this is all of the themes that are available by default here in PowerPoint 365. So if I wanted to use any of these, I most certainly could. But I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave it the way that it is right now. But what Copilot did was started this presentation in slide sorter view. I'm not actively able to make changes to the contents of my slide. So I'm going to double click slide 1 so that I can go to that slide. It will activate that slide. I'm not real thrilled with these colors. I would probably technically change this, but just so you could see what it did. Now, I do have my Copilot pane open on the right-hand side. I'm just going to close that for right now because I want to focus on some content that we could be using as we are building our presentation. So when it comes to each slide, they use what are referred to as a layout. So let's say that I have a slide, and let me just kind of scroll down a little bit. And let's say that on slide number 7, when I click on slide 7, I can see the information on the right-hand side where it's got continuous operation, avoid service interruptions, and uphold public trust. What if I actually wanted that to be, this slide to be laid out differently? Built into PowerPoint, depending on the template and the theme that you're using, if you go to the Home tab of the ribbon, when you create a new slide or you have an existing slide, you can change the layout. What the layout is going to do, which is available on the Home tab in the Slides group, I'm going to click Layout. You can see the existing layouts that I have available. The first set of layouts are actually related to the template theme I am using, that Oasis VTI, just so you could see. So if I wanted to change to one of these other layouts, I could definitely do that. But what does it do by default? Let me kind of show you. If I am in a blank presentation, this is a great example of what a layout really is, because when you're looking at a blank slide, or blank presentation, it does give you one blank slide to begin with, which is called the title slide. So we have these placeholders of where your data would go. If I wanted to add a new slide, I click New Slide and I get a new slide, but it's using a layout called Title and Content. It does that by default. Now, because this is a blank presentation, if I go to the Layout dropdown from the Home tab of the ribbon, I have a different set of built-in layouts. That's because I didn't start with a template like that. Copilot built it based on a template, based on a theme as well, colors and fonts. This is the generic Microsoft. So if I want this slide to have two comparison sides, I can have a title at the top and then have like a pros and cons left and right side, where we have the placeholders to automatically put our objects, whether we're going to type in text or we're going to be adding in graphical objects, whether it's going to be charts, it's going to be smart art, etc. We have these little squares to help us add in those elements. So just so you're understanding that layouts are predefined, giving us placeholders where objects would go. And the objects can be text, charts, smart art, it can be video, it can be a table, it can be a lot of different things. But what's great about these layouts is we don't have to design it from scratch, because if we had a blank slide, we have to add all objects manually and then configure them on how they're going to sit within the slide. These layouts do that work for us, which is absolutely fantastic. So back to the one that Copilot created. So as I'm looking at these different slides, if I want to change the layout that a slide is using, I can simply go to Layout, click on the layout that I want it to use. So maybe I want this one called Agenda 2. When I do that, it automatically changes the look and feel of this slide based on that predefined layout. It's got a place on the left-hand side where I could insert a picture. You could see that the title on the right-hand side is way too big. I'd have to adjust that, but just giving you an idea as to how the layouts work. If I want to put it back to the original, I could either undo it because it was the last action I did, or I could go back to layout and I could choose any of these other layout options to use something else. Now this happens to be the one that I was using originally, so I went back to that one. But just so you're understanding that we could do that. Now, when it comes to adding objects to a presentation, on page 2 and 3 of your handout, you'll find information about using video and audio. So let's say that we're actually doing this disaster recovery plan for our agency, and Copilot automatically created it, or we could have created it. Before we present this, we want to start making some changes to our presentation. Whether you created it or Copilot created it, it doesn't matter. One of the elements that we could be adding in is video or audio. We can go to the Insert tab of the ribbon, and on the right-hand side is the media group. From there, we could choose video or audio, or even do screen recording. If we choose video, video will allow you to choose from this device stock videos or videos that are available online. So let's say that you have a video that was already created from the person that is not available, but is the overall person that says, this is what we need to do. It's the fire chief from your city, whatever the case might be. We could have that video be available within the slide so that when we are doing the presentation, we can run that video. I'm going to just choose, I'm not going to choose one of my own videos. I'm going to choose an online video. From here, I could search for the type of video it is I'm looking for, whether it's coming from YouTube, SlideShare, SharePoint, OneDrive. I could look for a video that way, just so you could see what that option looks like. But if I go back to video and I say stock videos, what that is going to give me is videos that are already created that we can use for free. I'm just going to choose one of these. I can scroll down and see what kind of videos it is that we have. Let's say that I want this video. I'm going to click to select it. I'm going to click insert, and it's going to download that video to be available on this slide. What it did by default is it brought it in as looks like an image, and I can resize it. So if I don't want this to be so big, I can select it, I can change the size of it, and I can place it where I want it to be. Now the video can stay this size once we run the video, which we'll get to that here in a minute, but just so you know, it can also take up the whole entire slide when we go to run it. Notice that it has a play button on the bottom right now. If I click that, you'll see a preview of what this video actually looks like. Okay, so if I were talking about customer service, this might not be a bad video to use, but just so you could see how that piece works. But notice on the ribbon, you have video format and a playback tab that have been added because we're on a video. The video format tab is a great place to get started. If you wanted to change the style of how the video looks, the shape of it, you have formatting options that you could use. But when it comes to presenting, you want to go to the playback, because do you want to click on the video to run it during your presentation, or do you want it to automatically run? We can choose from that tab on the ribbon. So in the middle of the ribbon where it says video options, it says start automatically. That means that it's going to start when we go to that slide. I'm going to leave it on start automatically, but I could say when clicked, I could say in click sequence with other objects that we have, but I'm going to leave it on automatic. It also has the ability to loop until we stop it, which means it's just going to keep playing. Loop means it's going to keep playing. If it had sound to it, I could adjust the sound, I could fade it in, I could fade it out. You can see there's a lot of different tools that we have available for this. Now I'm going to leave it with what we have right now, because when we put this whole presentation together, I want you to see what's going to end up happening when we run this, when we actually run this. So I'm going to leave that. Now I'm going to click off that object. I'm going to go back to the Insert tab again, and just so you know, if you had a video that was saved on your device somewhere, you could have gone to Video and did this device. Then just navigate to the physical location of where that video is stored at. Or you could go to the Insert tab and do Audio. Maybe I just have a message from the President of the United States that I want to play before we run this. I could do that as well. It could be an audio that is coming that I saved to my computer, or I could record audio. I can even get audio off the internet and save it to my computer, just so you know. I'm not going to add in audio, but just so you know, audio would work very similar to the video where we could tell it when we want it to play. So do we want it to play as soon as we access the slide automatically or when we click it, that kind of thing. So works very similar. But let's continue with a few other things that we can actually do. Now we'll come back and talk about when we go to run the presentation, how all this is going to flow together. But transitions and animation are going to be a big part of presenting your information. Transitions is moving from one slide to the next. At the beginning, you need to know what type of presentation are you going to do. Is this going to be where you're standing up in front of an audience and you're going to click to advance to the next slide? Is this going to be you're standing up in front of an audience and it's going to automatically move from one slide to the next as you're speaking? Is this going to be a kiosk run? Is it going to, which means an interactive person can click on objects to navigate to the next slide and those kind of things? Not as common. But is this going to loop? Is this going to be a presentation that I'm putting on a TV screen at my trade show booth and I want it to just keep running? As a matter of fact, I do a lot of these, or help companies create these for their lobby, so that when people come in and they're in the waiting room, we have these presentations running, welcoming guests for that day, little information about our company. We could have a video that runs, which could actually be a new commercial or whatever the case might be. Just so you know, there's a lot of different ways we can have the presentation be presented. We're going to say that this is going to be a click to advance. Okay, we're going to click to say I want to go to the next slide. We'll do it that way, but I'll show you where you're going to set that up after we talk a little bit more about transitions. So transitions is the way that a slide is going to move to the next slide. We can apply transitions to our slides in the current view that we're in, but I don't always do that. A lot of times I actually change my view. So I'm going to go to the slide itself. I can either go to the View tab of the ribbon, or I could go to the bottom right of my status bar. And what I want to use most of the time for me is called, is called Slide Sorter. That's the view that we had when I originally created this presentation. Now, basically, this is not an editable. I can't go in and add graphics and edit my data. But what I like about this is I can apply transitions to multiple slides at once, because we have to be careful and not have too many transitions on every slide, have them all be different, because you could lose the attention of your audience. Now, at the bottom right of my status bar, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see more slides at one time. I don't necessarily need to read the slides. I just want to be able to see them. And let's say that on slide number 2, actually, I'll say slide number 1. I'll start on the first one. I'm going to go to the Transitions tab of the ribbon. And you can see that there is a gallery of different choices of how we could have this slide move to the next slide. I could click Fade and it will give you a preview. I could click Push, Random Bars. If you click the down arrow of that gallery, you can see there's different subtle options, there's exciting options, and there's dynamic content options. Subtle is a good place to start, depending on the presentation you're creating. I don't always use things like glitter, vortex, fracture, crush. Although they're very cool, I like them, but You have to think of who your audience is and use appropriate transitions based on the data on your slides. Now, just to show you, I'm going to use page curl. I'll choose page curl. Then I could go to the next slide and choose whichever transition I want to use for that one. But what if I want the same transition on multiple slides? Because I have 39 slides, that could take me a while. What if I want the same transition to be used on slides that are similar to each other? Like I have a title slide, which is a section slide, I should say, for each of my different sections. I can use my control key to select random slides. So I'm using my control key and I'm selecting all these first slides in these groups here so that I can have the same transition be applied to multiple slides at one time. And what I'm going to do is say that I want it to be uncover. Now, if I choose uncover, on the right-hand side, I've got effect options. It's like a second menu to the transition that you chose. And I could say, which direction do I want to uncover that slide? From the bottom, from the top right, from the bottom right, from the top left, etc. I can choose where I want the next one to come from, how I want it to move. Okay. So we can go through all of our slides and apply the appropriate transition for each of those slides. Whether I want it to reveal the slide, I want it to use a shape, I want to do a flash. I'm just kind of clicking on some of these and just kind of applying, and it gives you a preview. So as I click on it, it automatically gives a preview of what that effect would look like. I can do an airplane, I can do origami. There's just way too many options. Less is more, depending on what you need. You'll, of course, once you run it, you can always go back and change it. So I'm going to leave the transitions that I have right now, but I want to go back to normal view. I'm going to double click slide 1 to go back to normal view. I could have also just gone to the view tab or to the bottom right and chose normal. So this is the view we usually use to make changes to our presentation, to add slides, do other things. Because the next object that I want to talk about is working with animation. Transitions and animations are great tools to use in a presentation, but you want to be careful because this is where we animate objects. So what that means is we're going to go to a slide, we're going to click the object that we want to apply an animation to. So I am choosing this list of data that has this box, this text box that has data in it, and it has multiple paragraphs. And while I'm talking about the information on this slide, I want this text to come in one paragraph at a time. So what I'm going to do is go to the Animations tab. I have my object selected that I want to apply the animation to. Then I'm going to choose the animation that I want it to use. I'm going to click this fly in option. But what exactly do I want for, which objects to come in first, second, third? If I go to the right-hand side of this gallery and choose this effect options, this is going to give me a drop-down list allowing me to choose the direction I want it to come from. So right now it's on bottom. If I want it to come from the right-hand side of the screen, I could do that. But also from that effect options drop-down menu, at the bottom, it has a sequence choice. Do I want the information in this text box to come in as a whole object together to just all show up? Or do I want it to come in by paragraph? I chose paragraph. So it's going to bring in the text by paragraphs. And I can choose, do I want it to come in by clicking my mouse? Is that how I bring in the next paragraph? Or do I want it to automatically bring the next paragraph after so many seconds? I can set up the timing. By going to the Animations tab on the ribbon, on the right-hand side is the timing group. Right now it is set up to animate by clicking. But what if I wanted to automatically do it? I can click on the drop down and say after previous, which basically means that after we come into the slide, then it's going to activate. Now, the duration is how long it's going to take, and then we have the delay as far as how, so I bring this first item in, then it's going to wait this amount of seconds before it brings the next one in. That is going to be the delay. I'm going to say that I want it to be 0.5 seconds. Now I can preview this. I'm going to close my Copilot pane on the right-hand side. I can preview this at any time to make sure it's working the way I expect by going to the Animations tab on the ribbon. On the left-hand side, I can click Preview. So now you can see a preview of how that's going to be brought in automatically. So sometimes I don't want my text to be there right away when I go to the slide. I want to talk about this and then bring the next item in and talk about that, etc. So we can be adjusting what's going to happen with the information on when the audience is going to see it. So when do we want the audience to actually see the information that we have? Okay. Now there are different types of animations. I'll show you those in just a second. But first, let me actually go to slide 5. Well, actually, let me go to slide 6. In slide 6, let's actually say that I want to have a chart. I want to bring in a chart to this slide. I'm going to go to just to show you some different animation options. I want to have different objects on my slides. So I'm going to go to Insert, the Insert tab of the ribbon, and I'm going to say Insert a chart. It allows us to choose a chart type. I'm going to keep the default and just simply click OK. It will automatically give you categories and series and different values in the chart. You can, of course, change those values if you want. You even, of course, have your chart design tab on the ribbon, so you could change the way the chart looks. You can make the chart bigger, smaller, you can move it around, all of those kind of things. But I'm going to go ahead and close that Excel file that is attached to that chart, and I'm selected on the chart. I'm going to animate that object. By going to the Animations tab, I want to say that I want the categories to be, well, I should say the series in each category to be brought in one at a time. And I'm going to say that I want them to just appear, just all of a sudden appear. So I'm choosing appear, and on the right-hand side, because this is a chart, it's giving you different choices on the element drop down, or I should say the effect options drop down. I could say I want it to come in by series, by category, by element in series, by element in category, depending on what it is you want. You could choose one, do a preview. So now I'll get a preview of how this is going to look. And if I don't like that, I could go back and change it. Now, notice that my actual title of this slide was animated. If I select that object, I can see this little orange square on the left-hand side, which tells me there's animation on that object. So we have multiple animations on one slide. You can have as many animations on an object in one slide. I could animate the same object multiple times. Depending on what you're doing with your presentation, not always recommended, but just so you know, you could. If you go to the Animations tab of the ribbon, there's an icon on the right-hand side called Animation Pane. If you open that, you will see all the animations that are applied on your active slide. So I could go to the chart and make changes to the chart in the Animations pane. I could even click and drag and move the animations so that this animation happens after this animation, whatever it is we want. But when I'm on this chart, I'm going to go to the timing on the ribbon. And I don't want to say to start it on click. I'm going to say after previous, which means it's going to start after the previous animation. So I'm going to say that I want it to delay 0.5 seconds. If I want to preview all of this, I go to the preview from the ribbon. It will show me first the preview of the first object, then it's showing me the preview of the second object. So we can animate multiple objects per slide, and each object can be animated more than one time. We could even set it up so that this animates, then it's going to go back to the first animation and run it again in a different way. Think about a movie. Think about if you see something on the screen and it's bringing things in, taking things out, things are being added, and then they go away. We can do those kind of things here in PowerPoint. That's a little bit out of our element today on all of that, but very, very common is to animate text. So I'm going to do another text animation for you. I'm going to be on slide 7. Now I can see that there's this little square next to this box of text. So I know that this text box already has animation. So if I had animation already applied, which by the way, just so you know, when I built this presentation with Copilot, it added the animation automatically. Talk about an easy way to create a presentation. Copilot is my answer for creating anything automated. But I'm going to remove the animation and then show you some other examples of doing animation. So first I select the object. I can see that it has animation. I have the animation pane open, plus I see that little square at the top left. I'm going to go to the animations pane and click none. It has now removed animation from that specific object. Now, let's say that I want to add animation, but I want different animation. I'm going to say that I want this text to actually come in and I want it to float in. And I'm going to go to the effect options and I'm going to say I want it to come in by paragraph. But what do I want it to do after that animation is done? I can select this object and there's more that I can do with it. I could change the color of the text after it animates. I could have it disappear after it animates. I could change the order that the text is coming in. Because what if you were doing a top 10 list and you want 10 to come in first, but it's at the bottom? We could have 10 come in and work its way up to number 1, just like a movie does. So just so you know, we have a few different ways to do this. One way to do that is select the object, go to the animations pane on the right-hand side, click the down arrow next to the animation that is on that object. If I click the down arrow, I have this menu of different choices. I'm going to choose Effect Options. It opens up a pane to the window, giving me more ways to animate. So here is the effect. Do I want to play a sound? Do I want it to dim after the animation? Or do I want it to change color after it animates? I'm going to say I want it to change color, and it's giving me my theme colors. So these are all my theme colors. Do I want to animate the text all at once, meaning the whole paragraph all at once? Or do I want it to come in one word at a time or one letter at a time? So if you think about when they roll the credits at the end, that's animation that they're doing. We could have, let's say that we're talking about it's going to be a long haul. We could have the word long come in one letter at a time, really slow. we have the capability with animation to do those kind of things. It's pretty cool. I'm going to leave it as all at once, just so you know. But then I could go into the timing tab and I could change the timing. So I want to delay the animation for 0.5 seconds. The duration is set up to be very fast, which means it's coming into the slide really fast. I'm going to say 3 seconds. I want it to be a little bit slower. And the start, I'm going to say after previous. I could have it repeat it, but on the text animation, I could change the group order. I could say bring in the last paragraph first. Excuse me, I've quite the tickle going on. Also on this tab is the reverse order. So if I want the last information to come in first, we have the ability of being able to do that. Now, I'm not going to do those, but just to point out that you could. I'm going to click OK on what I have, and I want to, now you could see that preview. Look at how slow it's coming in. And then after it animates, it's changing color. Now, is that something I would do all the time to have it be that slow? Probably not. But if you look at the duration is at 3 seconds. That's the speed that it's coming in. So if I wanted to come in a little bit quicker, I could change that. Because whatever duration is, that's the speed that it comes in. Okay. So we've got some pretty great things that we can be utilizing when it comes to animation and the transitions. Use them appropriately. Doesn't mean that you have to animate everything on a slide. You don't have to animate all the text, etc. You don't have to have a transition for every slide. But depending on the context of what it is you're going to be talking about, etc., it's not a bad idea to do that. Okay. Now, what if I'm building this presentation and I actually have some slides that I want to bring into this presentation that are somewhere else? They're in a different presentation. You can just copy and paste if you want to, or from the Home tab of the ribbon, we can actually go to New Slide, the New Slide drop-down, and at the bottom of this list, we could say Reuse Slides. I could go to File Explorer, find the presentation, go to the preview and select the slides I want to copy in. I could do it that way. But this way, it's going to show you, I could search for the file that I want, the presentation, but here's my previous presentations. Let's say that I want to bring in slides from one of these previous presentations. First, I could go ahead and choose, and let me go ahead, I'm going to pick this one. Then it shows me the individual slides from that presentation, and I can choose which ones I want to bring in. So I'm going to, sorry, it's a little bit slow on bringing those up. I could say insert all, or simply click the slides I want to bring in. So if I want to insert this slide, I click on it and it automatically inserted that slide. Now where it put it was under the slide I was actively on. So maybe I want this slide and this slide. I can continue to bring in slides from any presentation. I can even go back up to the top and browse for a different presentation on my computer and bring in additional slides. So we could combine slides from other presentations to use in this one without having to recreate. So definitely something you want to think about doing. But I'm done with that for right now, so I'll leave that. But just so you know, also, when I created this presentation, Copilot automatically put my presentation into sections. How do I know that? Well, when I went into that, and let me show you this again. I'm going to go to the View tab. I went to Slide Sorter. It's organizing the slides into the sections that Copilot created. You can create your own sections and choose the slides that you want to be in a section, but basically it's a way that we can name what types of slides are in that section. Whether it's based on the topic that's being discussed, it's based on who's doing the presentation, because what if you had 3 presenters and you want to put all the slides for presenter 1 in one section, presenter 2 in another section, etc. You can do that. And the best part about that is, and I'm going to switch back to normal view. is we can always move slides for a whole section of slides at one time. If you go to any of the section names, you can right click on that section name and then you can rename it. You can remove the section, or you can remove all the slides and the section. You can move it up, move it down, or we could say collapse all. Collapse all shrinks up every section. Because what if right now I'm working on the section for roles and responsibilities? I could expand just that section, work on those slides. When I'm done, shrink it back up. Then maybe I'm going to do the training and awareness programs. I want to work on those slides. We have the ability of being able to collapse and expand them. But what if I want to do visual timelines and flow charts after the objectives? I could click and drag that whole section of slides to rearrange them. So having sections within your presentation is a great idea. How do they get created though? Well, when you're first, and I'm going to expand all these back out, I'm going to right click again and I'm going to say expand all, so all the slides are expanded out. To create a section, go to the slide where you want to start a section. Right click the slide. So on the left hand side, I right clicked. Then from here, I have all these different menu choices of what it is that I could do. And I would have add section. Now, of course, I already have a section, but I could add in a new section. When you click this add section, you then give the section a name. Every slide underneath it will be a part of that section. So we basically start at the top and work our way down the slides to add the sections. You can always move individual slides from one section to another, rearrange things, rearrange the order your slides are appearing in just by clicking and dragging them. But just so you know, you can work in sections. But once you kind of have all this kind of pulled together, remember when I was talking about the fact that we want to really be thinking about what type of presentation are you actually going to be doing? Am I going to stand up? Is it going to run automatically? If you go to the Slideshow tab of the ribbon, this is where we are going to configure all of this. Sorry, I'm going to kind of close those panes on the right-hand side there. Oops, sorry. Why is that window? There we go. I want to close my animations pane. I got too many panes open on this right-hand side here. So anyway, just so you're aware, if you go to the Slideshow tab here in PowerPoint, you can go to this group called Setup, and we can actually do Setup Slideshow. This is going to open a window where on the left-hand side, we can choose the show type. Is it going to be, full screen? Is it going to be browsed by kiosk where somebody's going to click objects to navigate? Is it going to loop continuously, just keep running from slide 1 to the end and come back again, just keep running? We could choose all of that right from here, which is pretty great that we have that capability. But when you go to run your presentation, have your transitions, have your animations, have everything ready so that when you run it, you can preview what everything is really going to look like. Now, how do we do that? Well, you have a few different options on how you can run your presentation. Right now, I am clicked on slide 4. If I want to run this presentation and start from slide 1, I can go to my quick access toolbar at the top left of my screen and click the icon Start from Beginning. It will automatically show my presentation starting at the very first slide. Now, just so you know, I have 2 monitors, so this appeared on my second monitor. When you have more than one monitor, more than one screen, you can be using what is called the presenter view. The presenter view is great because it allows you to use it to help navigate your slides. You can see your current slide, and on the right, you can see your upcoming slide. And if there's speaker notes, you see the speaker notes at the bottom. At the very bottom of the screen is your slide navigation. It also has additional tools here on the left-hand side, on the bottom left here of the slide itself, and it's got a running clock at the top, and you have menus across the top where you could choose to show your taskbar. You could go into display settings, or you could stop the presentation. So the presenter view is how we can really take advantage of being able to navigate our slides. So you want to be running back through your presentation. If you need to click to advance, however you have your timing set up. So here's those text objects coming in. Always run through the entire presentation before you go live, and do not read the context on the slides. Have it memorized to the best of your ability, and we put less on the slides for text and talk more than we actually have on the slides. Have stuff in the speaker notes to help you remember what it is that you wanted to say as you are on that slide. When it does get to the very, oh, I want to back up to that chart one. So here's that slide. So we're just coming into that slide. It's going to do that text animation. Here's the chart animation coming in. I had it going pretty fast, but just so you could see how that worked, that was pretty cool. But anyway, just so you know, when you get to your very last slide, because this is not set up as a loop, it will automatically end the slideshow. So we have the capability of controlling all of that by using transitions, using animation. It can help you display what it's going to look like as you move from one slide to the next, the timing that it's going to have, and any animation that you're going to use on any of the objects that you animate. Do you want it to happen automatically, like our video, which I bypassed that, by the way, because I didn't really want it to play that video over and over again. I didn't stop and mention it, but we had added that video. Now, of course, if your video is sound, make sure that when you go to run the presentation, like if you're doing this through WebEx, you're doing this through Zoom, you're doing it through Teams, whatever, make sure that the audience is going to be able to hear the sound coming from your video or the audio, okay? Because that is an option you do choose, okay? Well, that was a lot of information about PowerPoint. The handout will be a great reference tool for you to use to be able to go back and kind of refresh your memory and see some additional step-by-step details, because the handout has a lot of detail on it that you can go back and really practice. Now, by the way, there's a lot of things built into PowerPoint that you can use to practice. From that slideshow tab, we have rehearsing options. So take advantage of what PowerPoint has. It's a pretty great program, and it's actually a lot more powerful than we usually use for the features that are available within the application. So, Macy, did we have any other questions or comments that came through from the group?
No, we don't have any questions right now, but we can close out and you guys can email events at sourcepass.com.
Okay.
If you want to ask anything after you watch the webinar and review it with your team, please let us know if you have additional questions with the PDF that Jolyn talked about that has more details on presentations on PowerPoint. But thank you so much, Jolyn.
Absolutely.